Hey guys, welcome back to the Mind Body broadcast with Austin and Marty. And today we're going to do a follow up of our this will be the worst supplements episode, but we did a couple episodes on our favorite health supplements, and then we also did one on ergogenic aids or performance based or fat loss type supplements. And today we're going to do our top 5 worst supplements. And as always, we'll try to add some context to why we pick these things. There's a lot of supplements that can be added to this list. Especially if you're looking at like the gimmicky marketed type supplements that you may see on TV or infomercials and stuff like that. But I mean, most of our crowd here is pretty wise to those things. So we're going to try to stay within more of the bodybuilding realm of supplements that you might see commonly used.
Yeah, exactly. Because there are enough, as you said, ones that hopefully we'll call them people are wising up to now. We'll say just even the ones that are on most of the infomercials, especially late at night. But there are some that sneak through in a sense that I've had enough questions about, or that, funny enough, have been, we'll say, defamed or been proven to not work over years and years now, but they still will either pop up in a new way, shape, or form, or a new context, or be snuck into a fat-burning blend or a muscle-building blend. And so, yeah, we'll kind of pick out at least 5 each here. Austin and I have grabbed 5 each, and we're going to hopefully shed a little bit more light, as I don't think there's enough light that could possibly be shed on the bad supplement industry, we'll say.
Yeah, absolutely. We could, like we said, we could make this list very long, but we'll try to make these some useful suggestions for you guys. I will go ahead and kick it off then.
You got it, buddy.
Okay. All right. So first one on my list was antioxidant supplements, which this encompasses a huge variety of supplements. It could be vitamin type ingredients like vitamin C, for example, or it could be there's herbal ingredients that have antioxidant properties. I mean, there's a whole host of things that have antioxidant properties. So as a whole, antioxidants aren't necessarily a bad thing. I'm not saying don't eat fruit or don't eat nutritious foods, because a lot of these things contain these types of vitamins and ingredients. But I wanted to bring this up to talk about antioxidants in reference to your training and how that can actually inhibit muscle growth. So now when I say that, I want to give a little more context there. So there are actually some studies that will show antioxidants blunted muscular adaptations to exercise. So as we know, exercise is going to give us an inflammatory response, which we want. We want that acute inflammatory response. We don't want to be walking around inflamed all the time, like our joints hurting and all that. That's systemic. That's not what we want. We do want the inflammation from the workout, though. So antioxidant consumption around, like heavy antioxidant consumption around training, is typically what you want to avoid to help let your body basically go through the steps of that inflammatory process. And there are a couple other little nuances in there, like how it impacts AMPK levels, a couple other little things in there. But I mean, as a whole, we're looking at the inflammatory response. We don't want to blunt that after exercise. So if you're taking, and you could also add things like anti-inflammatory type of supplements. Now, those are not bad either. In fact, those are really useful, like curcumin. Hugely popular supplement for a good reason. It's a great supplement. Omega-3 supplements, those are fantastic. But I wouldn't be taking those things around training. So for people that, if you take all kinds of different over-the-counter supplements like myself, or I'm sure Marty probably takes a good handful every day, I would definitely just separate those anti-inflammatory and antioxidant type supplements away from your training. If you want to take them with a meal, just don't take them pre or post workout. Take them with some other meal during the day, and you should be good to go. But I do see a lot of people, like for example, ones that train in the morning, they'll get up, maybe they have a meal, and they shovel down all their supplements, and that's all their vitamins, all of their all of their anti-inflammatory supplements like their curcumin and their fish oils, and then they go and train, and they've effectively blunted most of the inflammatory response from training, which we don't want. So just a little tip, if you're going to use those types of supplements, separate them.
Now, I couldn't possibly agree with you more there. I kind of, like, even though there's some that will have, we'll say, a 24-hour active half-life or all that other kind of stuff, which we won't necessarily get into, but it's whatever kind of in the guts at that exact moment. And what would you say would you give for a time frame to, we'll say, not have those supplements kind of an hour and a half before, 2 hours before, and then wait till about an hour and a half, 2 hours after? Like, what's kind of the window you would like to see people not consume the antioxidant supplements?
So most of the things people take with food, most of the time, they're going to take them with a meal, and that's right. It's easy to remember. But normally I just say don't take them pre or post workout meals.
Right. Yeah. I think that's perfect too. Yeah. It's just a really easy way to kind of, make sure that what's being absorbed and I want to say uptaken, but uptook anyways into the bloodstream at that time is exactly not going to be counterintuitive to your training session, right? You could almost even go a little bit further in that people try to almost overflood themselves with too many things around the workout as well. So it's you don't want to be stuffing in exactly your calcium and your omega-3 at that time if you don't have to, which and I get it. There's sometimes there's some supplement regimens and things I've seen out there that are a little bit, almost will say, too militant. But there's other times of the day outside of your workout for sure. You just don't need to include those at that time. You got it.
Yeah. Whatever you have to do, if you have to pre-pack your supplements in little packets or dividers or something the day before, whatever, that's all fine. So what you got for us? What's the first one?
So this is probably, I would say, my most bashed supplement I've ever come to terms with in terms of my own, not only personal usage, but also enough clients have asked or have used it. Like on my new client intake form, I'll say, what supplements have you used in the past, or what are you currently using? And this one shows up like it's like that person at the party that you never want there, but they always show up, and it happens to be this supplement is CLA, conjugated linoleic acid. And man, so I got scammed hard this back in the day. It came out as this healthy trans fat was what it was promoted as. It was supposed to come from a cow or something like that. And it just seems so counterintuitive. I was like, you know what? Like, this would have been, oh my gosh, probably pushing 15 years now is when I would have first been looking at this on the shelf. And I don't think only a couple brands had it. You're supposed to take the magical amount was 3.2 grams, and it's supposed to help with fat loss. It's supposed to do, I don't even really remember how it was supposed to work. That's how bad the mechanism behind it was. But it turned out to be not only useless, but the amount of studies that have come out, and I have this on my Instagram too with the links to the studies. But the amount that came out that just said it did nothing was obnoxious, and not only that, but then. It might not be as detrimental as what we think, but 3.2 grams of it's a fat, so times that by 9, so you still are adding effectively calories in, and then during a contest prep, that can start to matter. Like I know some people that would throw down some CLA and then 4 to 10 grams of fish oil as well, and before you know it, you've got 15 to 20 grams of extra fat in your day, and that's 100 to 200 calories, and that's just flat out not cool. But it just doesn't work. Like everything, you can go to examine.com, type in either CLA or conjugated linoleic acid if you really want to type all that out, and just take a look at nothing is coming back. There's not even could possibly work in this. No. And I literally see this today, and I probably will get it today. I know I saw it last week on a supplement intake that they were taking CLA as part of their fat loss protocol. Like, do you still see that one floating around?
Actually, I do. I had it pop up. At first, I thought that it was pretty much out of the picture, and then I saw probably 3 to 5 inquiries in the last 6 months, and they had CLA on there. I'm like, why? I was noticing a pattern. I don't know. It was probably just a fluke, but yeah, I definitely see it.
and I thought it was dead too, but it will pop up here and there, and it's way more often than what I want it to. Like I did, I think, a Snapchat story with about it 2 years ago, and I thought that was kind of because it had a minor uprise again, but then here it is 2 years later, and I'm still having to talk about it. So I got no problem sticking up for the anti-CLA crowd and saying, this is not it. But yeah, definitely be able to go through my Instagram at Mega Marty Coach, and I think I want to say I put it out around, I don't know what time, but probably last year. The graphic just says CLA on it. Oh yeah, actually, October of 2017. Just take a look if you want to read up more about it. There's some more stuff there, but just useless if you see it as a part of a fat burner. Even if there are other good ingredients in the fat burner, I would really question that fat burner, because why are they putting something in there that does not work? Is it because they were playing to, we'll say, scam or hype marketing or what? So I would just look at other methods to increase your fat loss for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Sweet. Okay, so I'm going to go slightly out of order because I have the next one on my list is kind of related to the first one, so I'll skip that one for now. But next one is going to be GABA. Okay, so GABA is a lot of people are probably familiar with it. It's used as like an anti-anxiety type of supplement, typically mood enhancing. It's one of the neurotransmitters in your body that's already present, along with other common ones like serotonin, for example, or dopamine. A lot of people have probably heard of GABA. It can help with relaxation, help with helping you fall asleep at night, help with anxiety, like I said. So it's used pretty commonly for those reasons. The problem with GABA is that it does not cross the blood-brain barrier very well. So a lot of people will take it, and if anyone listening's ever used it, it does give you like a flushing effect and like a tingling effect. The only thing I could really compare it to is maybe niacin, but it's not as bad.
No, compared to niacin, no, I agree with you. Niacin will beat you on your ass if you don't watch it.
Yeah, right. It's not as bad, but I give a similar, I compare it as like a mild flush like that. So, of course they feel, it's probably doing something, right? Well, again, the problem is it does not cross that blood-brain barrier very well. So there's actually, if that's something people are interested in, you can look into that whole blood-brain barrier actually is it is a factor in a lot of the cognitive type supplements, whether they cross it. Like magnesium, for example, there's about 25 different forms of it. Some of them cross and some don't.
Right.
So it's a pretty interesting concept there. But typically alternative, I suggest L-theanine.
Yes.
L-theanine. Yep. Oh, and L-theanine is fantastic. It's super cheap. It crosses the blood-brain barrier pretty readily. Most people react to it very well. It's like I said, there's not really a lot of downsides to it. The only thing I would say is with any supplement that increases some kind of neurotransmitter activity, just try to limit use, like anything else, just like a medication. If you use it all the time, you're going to need it all the time. So and for you, that might, for somebody listening, that might be something that they need. It might be better than the alternative of not using it. But again, just be aware of that. But L-theanine is great. It will increase serum GABA levels, and it will get to the brain. So kind of interesting. There's a couple other supplements out there like that actually they have a metabolite or some kind of counterpart that actually does a better job than the ingredient itself, which is kind of bizarre that our body works that way. But
glutathione comes to mind with that.
Yep,
you know what I mean? In terms of exactly.
Better.
Yep.
That's actually the one that I was thinking of, because I had a discussion about that with somebody the other day, and they didn't notice anything from glutathione. Even in injectable, they're like, yeah, I really don't feel like I did.
No way.
But
okay,
they took back and manipulated the dose a little bit up and down. They're like, and they felt a difference. Thinking, well, there you go. So yeah, pretty interesting.
Yep, no, that's perfect. I'll toss out our disclaimer, which we should have thought about this before too, is that if you're listening to this and you are very adamantly against something we have just said, and you're like, I've taken GABA and I've gotten better sleep, I've gotten this and that, you know what, all the power to you, and we're not by any means, we'll say, bashing your personal findings. It's we should talk a tiny second here about the placebo effect and kind of what that is. It's tossed around a lot. Some people know what it is. Most people might be able to describe it, and I would say almost everybody has at least heard of it. But the placebo effect is so freaking strong, and I'll give a couple examples of just how strong it is, or as it was. But if you are taking GABA and someone says to you, if you take this in whatever dose, pill, powder form, whatever, before bed, you are going to get a better night's sleep or something, you have a very high percentage chance of having that actually happen, regardless of what the supplement is. I believe it was sometime in the 1980s. Someone hopefully can correct me on this. I think it was over in the UK, and it was the Olympic team, and they were the coach at the time, I think it was the track athletes, were given fake steroids, fake anabolics. They were put inside a pill, and it was literally sugar tabs, and it was kind of one of those things where the coach said, hey, can you come here for a second? And the athletes say, yeah, okay. And he kind of like, hush, hush, got to put his arm around and say, hey, like, I just got these. It's a new legal form of anabolic that's going to increase your whatever, high jump by a foot, your 100-meter dash by a second. Like, it's going to, and they're like, oh, really? I just don't tell anybody about this. This is very, and the amount of performance, I don't have the exact statistic because I'm not a research guy in terms of be able to recite that stuff exactly. However, it was obnoxious how much the performance went up in these athletes. And then, of course, after the Olympics, the coach said, listen, this was a sugar tablet. And if you want the most hilarious example of this, hopefully you remember this movie, Austin, was Space Jam, Michael Jordan, Bugs Bunny. You remember that?
Dude, I have a T-shirt and
the signed T-shirt and the DVD, right? There you go. But like when at halftime or the fourth quarter, whatever, Bugs Bunny gives Michael's magic juice or special juice or whatever, and they all pump up and they all take it and they play and they win. But it's just friggin' water. And I was like, that is the best example of the placebo effect on the planet. There's Bugs Bunny saying it's Michael Jordan's magic sauce, man. I'm like, this is awesome. Yeah.
I have you may probably didn't see it or you would have commented on it, but I posted in my story, I have a water bottle that says Michael's secret sauce on it.
No, you don't. That's awesome. No, I didn't see that. Or I definitely would have commented. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hilarious. I put my intra workout in it and it works fantastic.
Oh, you imagine like just like people see you like 6 months later, go from like pre-contest to off season, you're all big and be like, what was it? Just this, man. The secret sauce. Right? Or even just, buddy. Change it to like, you know what? We should do that for our clients. Put like Austin's secret sauce or a mega secret sauce and just mail it out to competitors for the water bottle. I think that'd be hilarious. But anyways, so the back to the point is that if you do find and you're conflicted, you're saying, hey, I know this, you're listening to this, say, hey, that's worked for me and this has done that for me. By all means, feel free to message us, leave a comment, and we can kind of not try to prove you wrong, but all we can do is expose you to the relevant information, or even better, give you a recommendation of a supplement that will work. Like Austin just said, funny enough, that was one of the exact supplements because I message Austin all the time because I know he's an authority on this stuff and say, hey man, what do you know about this? And with that, theanine or theanine was one of the supplements we talked about, and he turned me onto it. I added it into my nighttime sleep routine, and I found I got a lot out of it. So there you go. There's something you can swap GABA out for that would be very, very, we'll say, beneficial in the correct regard, as opposed to just abusing the placebo effect, because you can only get away with the placebo effect so many times before you're being let down all the time, and now you think no supplement works, and so now you're going down the other rabbit hole.
Yeah 100%.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Moving right along then into my second one, which is kind of backhanded here, so I'll kind of give, this is probably the only one I can talk at great length about, which is good, is glutamine. And so immediately, hopefully some people went, oh, glutamine. What? But that's exactly. So there's a double-edged sword here in terms of, yes, glutamine does have efficacy, and yes, it does work in the correct context. As I'm sure you're aware from listening to us here at the Mind Body Broadcast, is that everything has context, or every training or nutrition question is usually, it depends. There's very rarely a black and white answer on this stuff. But for glutamine, my beef with glutamine, and man, not only A, was it not cheap, especially here in Canada back in the day, but B, it was promoted as this muscle recovery, this almost like a joint protecting supplement. It was meant to reduce inflammation, help recover muscles. I'm pretty sure I even would have saw that it helps build muscle at some point way back. This would have been in probably the late 90s was when it was really being touted for this rationale or this reason. And you could buy bulk tubs of it. And I remember it being in Canada, $80 for a bulk tub, which plus tax, which depending upon which province you're in is still not chump change. And you go through that in a month. And I still know and this is one that still shows up, of course, on my new client intakes questionnaires. And then, of course, I'll say, well, what's the rationale behind using this? And if that's kind of what they have been attempting to use it for, I will do my best to educate them and say, you know what, we can save some money here and use it for some other means. So all the research that has come back is showing no, or if it does come back showing that yes, it is helping with that, again, you're probably looking pretty hard into that placebo effect. But so what is glutamine actually good for? Digestive health, stomach lining, and kind of, we'll just say, the guts. And I've seen this happen. So if you have seen glutamine in either part of your supplement protocol or potentially your intra-workout or your post-workout drink, it could be for that reason. Because I know that in the, let's say, the pre-treatment for ulcers, a heavier dose of glutamine, something like 10 to 20 grams, has been used with lots of success. It can calm down the stomach quite a bit in a sense of any kind of gastrointestinal pain or the ability to digest and reuptake. But the thing about glutamine is it's most readily available amino acid in everything. If you take a look at a protein powder, if you flip around the back of your tub, and quite a few of them, well, the protein powders will still give a breakdown of the amount of amino acids inside of the protein tub. I think it's the most predominant one out of all of them, isn't it, Austin?
Yeah, it's going to be glutamic acid, I think is what it's called. Yeah.
Yep. And it will be something like 5 to 7 grams versus some of the other ones won't be as heavily made up in terms of the protein powder itself. So good. I'm glad you're seeing that too. But yeah, that's kind of not only so we get enough of it from the diet, but for that extra supplementation that would be purely for the gut health or whatever. And I'm just remembering now as I'm talking that where they actually extrapolated the science / evidence for the muscle repair, muscle recovery, and inflammation was from, I believe it was both either cancer or AIDS patients. You can correct me on which one that is there. And then people recovering from burns, fires with like second, third, fourth degree burns. And so, of course, when the first thing that's going to go is sorry, I didn't mean to say of course, but what goes first is your glutamine store. So that's a time when supplementation would be very advantageous, is in those two situations. But, and this is kind of a side note too, is when you see some science research come out and you read the abstract, which is just the kind of the summary that you can usually see for free, or what a lot of people will reference, sadly, it will say something like that. In this study, we showed that supplementing with glutamine at whatever dose, if they even tell you what it is, showed muscle repair, muscle recovery. But then if you read the entire study, it will say in these burn victims, whatever, it's like, well, the healthy, or even we'll say the unhealthy training athlete is not just recovering from a burn, let alone anything else. And so that's flawed, and that's a problem. We won't get into that today too hard, but that is a problem with today's, and especially before, scientific research, analysis, and studies that were coming out was flawed or misused science in reference to their products. So that's something to always, unfortunately, be kind of on the lookout for. But yeah, glutamine not going to be helpful in terms of muscle recovery or inflammation recovery for the healthy training individual.
There you go. Yeah, it's I do use it in some people for digestion. Like, I'm going to use the word leaky gut, even though people are going to tell me it's not a real thing, which is fine. I don't care what you have to say.
Absolutely.
It's I'll pick a different name for it. Poor, high gut permeability there, make people happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But an interesting thing about glutamine too is it's really what they call glucogenic. So it doesn't so it converts into glucose really easily. There was an interesting experiment I did with this. This is off to the side, but people might find this interesting. Is I had a diabetic client that used it with, and he was obviously prescribed insulin, and he'd have to change insulin doses based on carbohydrates and blood glucose and all that, just like, anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But he was using we had him using intra-workout carbs. And of course he's going to need some kind of insulin for that as well. We started slowly replacing these intra-workout carbs with glutamine,
mm-hmm.
and it actually maintained his blood sugar, which was wild.
Yeah. I have seen that. I have seen that myself too. I remember they were talking about that for extreme dieting purposes. I think Dr. Scott Stevenson was talking about that, replacing glutamine or carbohydrates with glutamine. Is that and that's kind of what your approach was there, huh?
Yeah, similar thing. So it's pretty cool. Not super relevant to what we're talking about, but kind of neat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so next one on my list is red yeast rice, which is a supplement for cholesterol. So it was, it's probably been around quite a while. I couldn't tell you. I mean, as long as I can remember, but was actually a very effective product at one point, because what people didn't realize, or what most people didn't realize, is that it has a naturally occurring statin right in the product through whatever extraction process they used. It's a yeast product, so it's probably like some kind of fermenting process or something. I don't know, but it would actually contain a statin ingredient right within the product. So of course it's going to lower your cholesterol.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what a statin does. And it lowers. It'll typically, depending on the ingredient, it could lower total cholesterol. It may lower HDL with the LDL, depending on how what effect it has. But so some people would use it for high LDL levels, and it was pretty popular. I'm sure it was pretty popular within like PED users and stuff, and people that had those high lipid levels. But the FDA caught wind of the fact that it had a statin ingredient in it. Not that people were adding it, it was just naturally occurring. So at some point, and I couldn't tell you what year it was, they had banned sales of red yeast rice with the statin ingredient. So you can't get it anymore. Okay. It's still out there. Red yeast rice is still out there, but I would assume that the extraction process, or however they process it, has obviously changed somehow to exclude that ingredient. So because I've seen it in several, like the cycle, like the cycle support or the health support products that contain, that'll contain like a liver product and a kidney product and a heart product. Yeah, so a lot of those it was in. So now if, people that are buying those, if you see that pop up, it's not a worthwhile ingredient. It does not contain a statin ingredient anymore. And I really not a huge fan of statins anyhow. For several reasons. That's a different topic. But that's an interesting one. And it kind of quietly happened too. Like I didn't realize it until I just stumbled upon it. So I would imagine there was a lot of people that were still taking it, thinking it was the same thing. Kind of interesting. So
when do you believe it would have been taken out of the process of an extraction? Like, was that a year ago, 2 years ago, before the FDA said no, you can't do that anymore?
It was longer than that. It was
no way.
I had no idea, but it had to have been at least like 3 to 5.
Okay, wow, and we still see it in some cycle support supplements and things like that, eh? Wow.
There was actually a couple pretty reputable companies that it was still in their products, so I'm not sure. I would think that they would have been notified of that. I don't know how that process works, like how their manufacturers and all that stuff, works. But yeah, it was still coming up, and of course, people were buying these products from reputable companies. So
here's what I'll add to that as kind of an adjunct, is that sadly, because if a certain ingredient does get a good reputation, such as the red yeast rice, is that some companies will leave it in there just because people, like you said, have not caught on to that. And so if they don't see this ingredient in part of let's for instance, you're looking at a fat burner, and back in the day it had whatever in it, and now whatever has been proven to not do anything, but yet you still see it. It's because of the general populace will say, oh, okay, cool, that's in there. I've seen that before. I know that works, or at one point that did work, or along those lines. Because I remember the biggest one that I can think off the top of my head was when ephedrine was replaced with synephrine, but not even close to the same thing, right? But they saw a word that looks like an epinephrine, and they're like, oh, okay, that's got to be that. And then conversely, they saw it and said, oh, that's that really terrible heart rate increasing blah blah supplement. So then it went both ways. Either people thought, okay, cool, this is that older formula that worked, or now they're seeing that this is that older formula that was trying to kill people. So I think that's kind of an angle that a lot of us are kind of ignoring, in a sense of we're leaving it in there just because it was in there. Very akin to, it was like as we talked about in the other supplement podcast, we'll call it the caffeine race, where it was 100 milligrams of caffeine per scoop. Then it was 150 milligrams, because the whole more is better thing. It was because kind of people were putting it in there even though they potentially knew it was either useless or not the right dose.
Yeah, that was a good example. And the consumer's supposed to be educated, but we can't be in tune with every single little thing that goes on within, like, the FDA, for example. I mean, we don't know things. So, yeah, that's definitely a good example.
All right. No, perfect. I like that one. I didn't know about that, and now I do, which is fantastic. That's great. We're at, my third one, I believe. Okay. Yep. So, moving right along, I already mentioned this briefly in the best supplements that I like category, in the performance enhancing one. So I will talk about the converse one, which is BCAAs, branch chain amino acids. This is another one, a very akin to CLA for me, that I felt very victimized by the supplement industry. I think everyone did at one point, just for the fact of how much it was promised and kind of touted as this magical muscle repair, muscle building, way more so than glutamine ever dreamed of being. And I think it even got a greater reputation in terms of what it could do in terms of notoriety. People had heard of BCAAs before they had heard of glutamine, and it was part of and I still see it. Of course, I don't know if this one will ever go away, and if the day comes, I'll be like one of those people that I can pat on the back, being like, good, you were part of the people that put the light out there to this. But so what it was with BCAAs is, I'll go reiterate ever so slightly that it was meant to, you could use this in place of protein, either during your workout, during your fasted workouts, or even potentially sipped on during your day to really promote anabolism, muscle growth, anti-catabolism, to make sure you weren't going into some kind of muscle wasting state. It was touted almost like a catch-all, like it could do everything. And it was also touted as being 0 calorie, which was a loophole that I don't know if it was the FDA or whoever was able to obtain, because amino acids, branch chain amino acids, of course they're part of amino acids. They all have calories. They come from protein. Protein is in the gut, broken down into amino acids, and the calories don't just magically disappear now that they're amino acids. So that's kind of one of the loopholes, is that they could write on the back of these gigantic tubs of amino acids 0 calories. And so I knew people that were, and still know people that would sip on them during their day because it was a better way to have water, because it was flavored, because some of those branch chains ended up tasting damn good. And not only that, I will say I was guilty of it back in the day, which would have been about, probably closing in on 3.5 or more years ago now, was when the first science was coming out showing that, no, this doesn't really do what it kind of said. And some of the reasons why, if you're taking branch chains right now, and this is especially one that I think I'm going to get some blowback on, for people saying, no, I do use these do work. I even saw the other day someone saying, well, they keep you, they're the best thing you can have during your fasted training, not fasted cardio, but your fasted training, to keep your energy up. And well, that's because not only A, do they have calories, but B, it's not going to, it's again placebo effect, and it is not going to be repairing your muscle or anything kind of along those lines. And then I even just mentioned there, how about some people will take it before their fasted cardio or during their fasted cardio, trying to remain in a fasted state. Well, as we just said, it does have calories, and that will throw you out of being fasted. I think it was something, I remember the study, but I don't remember the study at the same time. 5 grams was the amount that it needed to cause insulin to spike, which therefore, of course, definitely meant you were out of a fasted state. So it was we were lied to, ladies and gentlemen, on the branch chain stuff. Off the top of my head, I don't remember what the studies were before that were showing that it did promote the muscle growth and the muscle recovery and the anti-catabolism, but it just eventually, once more and more stuff started coming out with we'll say real researchers, not people being paid off by bigger companies or anything like that it finally said, this isn't really showing anything versus the control group, which is when they're not given the branch chains. And if anyone doesn't really know fully out there how a lot of these studies will work, is that there's a bunch of different types. There's blind, there's double blind, and what in general they'll try to do is give people an equivalent tasting, or not, it doesn't even necessarily be tasting, but we'll say a pill or a powder, telling them this is what it is, or potentially this isn't what it is, to see what it is. I know that sounds convoluted, but like if I have 2 groups, I have 20 guys, and I split it into two groups of 10, and I'll give one of them actual branch chains, I'll give one of them whatever. It could be, think of anything, gelatin. Doesn't actually, that'd be a bad example, but anything like that. Could be Splenda, we'll say, and then just kind of see over the course of a certain amount of time, weeks or months, if there is a benefit to it. Or potentially they could say this isn't branch chains, and they'll give it to them and go, okay. And then if they do see an effect, then well, cool. Then now they definitely know that it was something was being caused by the supplement that they were trying to prove the claims of, because they thought it wasn't it. And so there was no chance of having placebo there. So that's kind of how a lot of this stuff ends up trickling down the vine eventually, once especially we get the better closed studies, as AKA when they're inside of a research lab, as opposed to just people taking the supplement and then coming back and reporting, because it can convolute the research a little bit too much. But yeah, as of right now, there is still nothing coming back on branch chain showing any kind of efficacy. And as I talked about, in the beneficial supplements, one is essential amino acids. The EAAs are the ones that are showing to potentially or actually do what the branch chains were meant to do. Just that the 3 branch chains by themselves, leucine, isoleucine, and valine, are not enough to initiate that kind of muscle growth or muscle sparing effect that you need all of the 8 essential ones to kind of have that be happening for you.
Yeah, right. So yeah, it's I think most companies are pretty much done with producing BCAAs. I don't see any new products popping up, so that's good. I think that one's catch.
Absolutely. In the last year, I would say I've seen a lot of either the company has A, shut down their BCAA formula and put out an EAA formula, or B, they've just released an EAA formula now, and hopefully they will be taking down their branch chain formula off. But even about 2 years ago, there was very few EAA products out there, let alone EAA products that were reputable. So it's getting better now, but even so, one of those, just like Austin says, don't just add things into your diet without kind of knowing why. So don't like run out there and grab theanine, don't run out there and grab EAAs, but like just know that is the better option if you are looking into kind of that area of supplement.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I have 2 more on my side. Next one is, well, let's see. I can just go with. I'm gonna talk a little bit about multivitamins.
Yeah,
I put this on the list. This is another one where some people are probably going to yell at me.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
oh yeah,
I'm not. And this is just kind of a context one, because.
For sure.
I would say 90% of the time, I see people just use very poor products. I mean, they're not bioavailable ingredients. They're using, heavily processed inorganic types of forms of vitamins, things that just aren't going to absorb very well. And frankly, some of these really, really low quality vitamins are actually contain like a lot of like arsenic, high levels of these different toxins that while our body can, our body can process these, they are in our food already. Mm-hmm. It's just ideally we rather not, if we're shoveling down, 40 pills in a day, I'd rather not shovel down 40 pills that have lead in them. Just because it's a little less toxic load on my body, which your body already has a lot of work to do to begin with. So the higher quality companies are going to be free of those things. They're going to have high quality ingredients. I can give some examples, great examples like vitamin D, for example. Most people have probably heard of vitamin D3. Your better companies are going to use the D3 form. You will see that on the back of the bottle. They will list it. It's going to be in the right dosage, and et cetera, et cetera. And your minerals are another great example. Looking at things like magnesium and calcium, they're not going to use magnesium hydroxide, for example, or something that's just going to make you go to the bathroom. They're going to use like a glycinate, or they might even use like a citrate, which is still a pretty decent form. Something that's going to be actually absorbed. Right. Calcium, like I said, they're not going to use purely like calcium carbonate. So they're going to use just better forms of vitamins that can also your fat soluble vitamins. I mentioned vitamin D, but other fat soluble vitamins like vitamin A, for example. You have the retinol form. A lot of companies, they'll add some beta carotene in there. Right. It's not toxic. You can't OD on it. Like, you can't take too much of it. It's stored differently. It's a better form. It absorbs better. Vitamin E has all kinds of different, the tocopherols or tocopherols. I always call them tocopherols because it's fun to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's quite a few different forms. And your better companies are going to have better forms. Your B vitamins, they're going to have activated forms. So like your methylated B12, and they're going to have methylfolate instead of folic acid. I mean, they're going to have, or they'll at least have a combination of both. So your good companies are going to be usually people like Life Extension. They have a pretty decent, like 2 a day type of multivitamin. Thorn, Pure encapsulations. I mean, there's several, but it's gonna cost different. I mean, you're gonna notice the difference in the cost as well.
Yeah,
it's not gonna be $9.99.
Yep.
So, and I'm not saying it's gonna be $50, but it's not gonna be $9.99. It's not gonna be a Centrum 1 a day, like Marty said earlier. Don't waste your time taking that. That you're gonna. Not only are you probably not going to absorb the vitamins, but you're lucky if you're going to even absorb, break down the capsule or the pill, because they just use junk ingredients. I know. I had a funny story. A guy that he used to clean porta-johns, and so
like the Johnny on the spots, like the porta potties. Yeah. Okay.
Yep, used to clean the porta-johns, and he would, they pump them and then they clean the inside and they do all that stuff. So he was finding like all these capsules and stuff in there, and they were spraying out. He was spraying out this one, I don't know what you would call it, the base of it inside the bottom of the porta-john or whatever.
Right.
And he started putting 2 and 2 together, and noticed that a lot of these people were just shitting out what looked like Centrum, the shape of like Centrum vitamins all day.
Funny.
And
wow, I love that story. That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's such a huge brand. Millions of people take it. I'm sure.
Lord, yes. Oh, Lord, yes.
Yeah, and he noticed that because he was taking them as well, and before we had worked together, and he noticed, he's like, that is the same exact shape as my damn Centrum vitamins, and he's noticing it everywhere. And sure enough, that's what they ended up being. So that's kind of funny. But yeah, don't waste your money on that. It's pay a little bit extra. You're actually going to absorb what you're taking.
Yeah. Now I completely agree. And I will say this is definitely on probably around that 2012-ish mark for me, was when I started becoming more privy to exactly what you're talking about, that there were different forms of the vitamins, that they were not sneaking in there or not being, that they were sneaking in there or not, and that they weren't being very clear about that. Very akin to pre-workouts. A lot of people would have said creatine, but they wouldn't tell you what form of creatine, let alone the amount. Again, proprietary blend. And you'll see that with multivitamin, multiminerals. You'll see proprietary blend. So we'll say we have 5 grams of X. And it's like, okay, is that even the amount, the correct dosage that you need, let alone anyone else needs? Is it overdose? Is it underdose? Is it the correct form? And for years, and it's not to put these guys down wholeheartedly, because I still do enjoy the company of what they do for other different things. But everyone in the bodybuilding community, and I mean everybody, if you've been involved in bodybuilding, you Google bodybuilding, you've been on bodybuilding.com, blah, 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 you know what Animal Pack is. Everybody. And if you haven't tried it, that's a whole other thing. Cool. But it was, I think, 8 to 11 vitamins inside of one pack, and I believe they were the first, especially the first bodybuilding company to put out a multi-pack, which is, I believe, what they're called now. And you can see some other brands with them out there now. Some of them will have the soft gel in there, which is your omega-3 and things like that. But they even had, at one point, shark cartilage as the very last ingredient on Animal Pack. And it is another one of those things that just had some promise to it, that if you ate shark cartilage, I don't even know what it was supposed to do, but it was supposed to be this thing that could help, and they had it in there. And then long after that was blown out of the water, they still had a little bit of shark cartilage in there. I don't know if it's still in there or not. I haven't looked at the formula for Animal Pack in gotta be 3 years, but and then just very akin to how your story about the gentleman and the porta potties, is that everyone I know, and I mean everybody, when they took Animal Pack, their piss would be highlighter or neon yellow, because there was so much to friggin' absorb at once that I don't think there was enough hydration you could possibly take to actually suck up all the vitamins, if your body even could, because I don't know the form of the vitamins and minerals that were inside of Animal Pack, but I do know that I even tried, after taking my Animal Pack, to slug like 2 liters, 3 liters of water, and still it was not clear, and I was like, damn. So there's the perfect kind of thing, that you are, the byproduct, you are pissing out what you're using, and then in Austin's example, you're shitting out what you're buying. So it's like that's a very clear sign that your body's not taking up these things. So kind of like how to navigate the multivitamin, we'll say, realm or world is, I used to call it, and I think I got this from Lyle McDonald at one point, I would call it as nutritional insurance or vitamin insurance. And I kind of don't necessarily believe that anymore, thanks to it can cause some other problems with either overdosing or getting in the way of other vitamin or mineral uptake. So if you in fact do need, like, you're not eating eclectically, you're not eating a lot of fruits and vegetables or whatever, then you can look into specific vitamins and minerals that you could potentially need. Like, so for instance, I know if you go low carb, you can use XYZ vitamins and minerals. If you're going lower fat, you might need ABC vitamins and minerals. And that's a whole other podcast that we could potentially talk on too at some point. But so that's kind of what to look into, is take the ones you need, not necessarily this eclectic multivitamin that will have a whole bunch of junk you don't necessarily need. Think of it almost like buying a combo with a dessert or whatever at a fast food restaurant, and you get fries and you don't want fries, but you have to have the fries. There's nothing, you can't just have the option to not have them. So that's what you kind of do at your own. And then buying individual items from, it doesn't necessarily need to be a fast food store, just everyone knows what a combo is. Like, you have a number one, pop, fries, whatever, is that you can then customize that with getting kind of your own things. So, and the kind of the other takeaway is just stay away from the drugstore. Like, yes, Centrum or Centrium or whatever has a big, huge brand for themselves, especially being a multivitamin for the elderly, we'll say. And you know what? I'm not saying, like, if you're out there and you're saying my grandfather or grandmother uses Centrum and the doctor recommended it and it's doing good for them, you know what? Like, as we said, thumbs up, all the power to them. Just, there are not only better options, but then even Austin's example, like, maybe they're wasting it too, and who really knows about that. But, and then one of the last takeaways I have is that you can look at the physical supplement itself. Like, if I look at my probiotic, it's not only inside of a capsule, probably I think it's magnesium stearate, something like that, but it's herbs. Like, you can see right inside that it is a herb. It's ground up either, what do you call it? Like I'll just keep using herbs like actual plants. But then if you see a white hard pressed tablet and it's claiming to be something kind of natural, it's like, well, I don't know very many things I can go pick off of a plant that are white hard pressed tablets. So outside of like them extracting the certain ingredient from, let's say they're taking, I know they don't actually do this, but just for listeners to kind of get an idea, is like, I know you can't actually take a white powder outside of an orange and make vitamin C hard pressed tablet, but you can through other means, you can manufacture it. But if they're claiming that this is from a natural source, this is from a herb or a leaf, and you see it's a hard pressed tablet, I would kind of use caution on that as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good summation of everything. There's, like I said, you can tell by, I mean, heck, half the time you can tell just by how much it costs.
Yeah.
You know, that's not to say that some companies don't jack it up a little bit, but again, you're not going to pay $10 for something that should cost $30. So
yeah, no, and that's the other thing too, is a lot of the more effective ingredients, as you said, are a little bit more pricey. So that's very easily a way to kind of tell there too. Okay. Then actually, I think was that your second to last, or was that your last one? No, you got.
Yeah, second to last. I have one more, so you should have two, I believe.
That's right. And so perfect. My second to last one here is just kind of a bigger category, just natural testosterone boosters. And I have a note here saying Tribulus and all of its forms, such as Tribulus terrestris and other things. So I was like, I'm kind of picking out my beefs and my childhood dreams being crushed when I'm picking out these supplements that are on my worst list, because I got scammed by these ones as well. What they try to look like is claiming, we'll say, steroidal or anabolic effects in a natural form. And ladies and gentlemen, if this was straight up truth, we would have no need for the anabolic steroid industry in terms of the muscle wasting industry and clinical usage. We would have there would be no illegal use of steroids, because all these legal supplements would be doing it all for you anyway. So I've seen outlandish claims from these, and it's sad to see that a lot of companies still have the same junkier ingredients in there, which are the ones that have been out forever, such as Tribulus terrestris, which was shown, I think, the only couple studies where they did have this showing it was doing anything in terms of testosterone elevation was in not only seniors, so we'll say 55, 60-year-old men plus, but they already had clinically low testosterone to begin with, and the amount that it did budge towards having a higher testosterone level after probably copious usage of any of these testosterone boosting supplements was not enough to make it be worth not only the money or worthwhile, where something like testosterone replacement therapy, TRT, would have been the much more, not only cheaper, but more advantageous and efficacious option. But yeah, they say that they're going to increase your muscle mass. They say they're going to increase your energy. They're going to decrease your fat mass, and they just don't pan out. And I know, even today when I was doing a little bit of research on this beforehand, I found some good old stuff on bodybuilding.com where there was a 15-year-old literally arguing, saying, I'm taking, I forget which one it was, taking XYZ, and I'm horny all the time. I feel great, so up yours. I know it works. And it's just, it's like, man, again, there's that placebo effect, taking into full account that it's not only prevalent today, but like, of course, an impressionable 15-year-old has no business buying a natural testosterone booster. Like, that's just money in the company's pocket for sure. But I will sorry, go ahead.
So they should already be horny.
Oh, that's what I mean. If you're a 15 and you need something to make yourself horny, then definitely go to the doctor and get that checked out for sure. For sure, you're 15. Yeah. But the only one, so like I kind of saw that did have some potential boosting of testosterone was something called arachidonic acid, which I know William, I think his last name's pronounced Llewellyn or 11. I forget it. He writes the books. Was it, sorry?
Llewellyn.
There we go. So we got William Llewellyn, or Bill Llewellyn, and he's the very popular author of the books called Anabolics, and he's written different versions of them, kind of his, like, we'll say, anabolic steroid research review guide. And he is the creator of, I think his branded supplement's called X Factor, which is pure arachidonic acid, and that is shown at sometimes to increase testosterone. I'm not going to get into it too high or too hard, because I'm not very privy on all the science and research behind it, but that was, if that product would be the only one that I would maybe look into if you're really interested in any kind of the natural testosterone raising products. But even then, they're scams, ladies and gentlemen. You're wasting your time with them, and there's much better ways you could be spending your money.
Yeah, there are a couple of very select ingredients out there that do a little bit. But again, like you said, a lot of the studies, people were already really low testosterone. I mean, and let's be honest. I mean, even if something raised your testosterone, let's say 100 points, 200, if you're hypogonadal at 200 and you go to 300, you're probably not going to feel it, honestly. Mm-hmm. So some of the, like, I don't know if you do this, but there are a couple decent ingredients that will raise like free testosterone and stuff, which can be helpful. But
right, yep.
On occasion, I will introduce these to like natural competitors that are deep into a contest prep, like a male or even sometimes a female's,
mm-hmm.
just because, yeah, I mean, if we can keep their test up just a little bit more, and because at that point they're already in the gutter.
Sure, absolutely.
So, that might be a point where we would use them, but it's not going to be tribulous. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's right. And I'm more or less definitely straight out calling out like I'm definitely not more reputable, but definitely bigger named supplements. Like one that's coming to mind is like Muscle Tech. Like when they put out some of theirs, it would be a hodgepodge. And here's the thing is, well over half of these ingredients that they have shoved into their blend, I've never heard of. Let alone the general populace going in there flipping around the back. Like, remember when they came out with like Lukic, Gakic, Creakic, Testosterone, and it was like looking at the back of what you'd need to stock a chemistry lab for students was kind of what they had as the ingredient list. And I was like, oh my, and then not only that, but they were by far the most expensive because they had some African, Egyptian, German herb that somehow all three of those races and cultures of people got together and made this herb and said, this is the one that's going to raise your testosterone. I can't do it, Austin. We got to move. I'm starting to laugh too much.
Did you? Well, I'll make you laugh even more. I have an anabolic halo shirt.
Oh man, I remember that. Yep.
And it says what's the back of the shirt say? Something like
0 to jack in 60 seconds, or
no, it's like getting huge at negative 320 degrees or something like that. It's ridiculous.
That when they put whatever in it to chill the product. Oh my god, anabolic halo. That's right. Yeah. Before you know it, we're gonna have a cease and desist letter here from Muscle Tech saying like, "Hey guys, come on, what have you ever done to you?" And I'll be like, "You've wasted countless of my dollars." Yeah.
God. Yeah, that's great. Man,
don't ever throw that shirt out, Austin. That's gorgeous.
No, I wear it all the time. Sometimes
go ahead.
My Q&A videos. Sometimes I'll wear it on my Q&A videos as a joke and to see if anyone catches it.
Perfect. While you're sipping the Michael's Magic Juice, right? From the water bottle? Perfect. Like, that's awesome. Just see, there it is. I need Halo in Austin's juice, and now I'm Austin in 4.5 weeks. For sure. Awesome.
Okay. All right. So last one on my list is jackfruit, and it's a fruit, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen this. I don't know why this came to mind. I think I've seen it pop up in some different products. As I've seen it pop up in a couple of, like, I guess you'd call them like a GDA type of glucose disposal type of product.
Okay.
And weight loss products. I guess those two can kind of go hand in hand. And then oddly enough, I saw an article somebody, one of the companies had posted. I think it was like, I want to say it was like Legion supplements.
Right. Yep.
Do you ever heard of them?
Yeah, I've heard of them.
They're a relatively decent sized company. I think I've seen them around a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it was talking about jackfruit, and I had seen it, and I saw there were some studies on it, but essentially what it boiled down to was there was not really any good human research, which that's a problem in a lot of the supplements, is we just don't have, we have a mouse equivalent, a rat equivalent. That's about the best that we have. And then There was just no efficacy. It didn't really do what it said it was supposed to do. So again, you see that pop up in some of the newer glucose disposal agents, and it's going to be a big. I have a feeling it's going to be one of those that's going to get marketed heavily, and it kind of reminds me of like that acai fruit. Remember that?
Oh yes.
Yeah, yeah. So that's exactly what it reminds me of. That it's going to get hammered like that. Which, I mean, if you like the taste of it, of course, all fruits and vegetables offer different micronutrients and different compounds. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff like polyphenols and stuff within fruits that we're not going to get otherwise. But I definitely wouldn't be going out and buying it in supplement form. So that's a pre-warning. I'm sure it'll start popping up soon.
Oh yeah, you know what? I've can firmly say I have not heard of jackfruit yet, which is in a sense great. But I'll prepare myself. I'll put the pillows up, make a fort, so for when the ads come in, I'm prepared for it, right? Because we won't get too heavily, and we're running out of time here anyway. But the whole superfood industry is a little bit wacky as it is, and well, a little bit wacky, a lot of it wacky. But now if they're going to be adding to it, it's just a little bit of a shame to see that they're still trying to piggyback on this stuff.
Yeah, 100%. You have one more for us, I think, right?
Yeah, you got it. This is the last one. We're getting down to the wire. It'd be great. I've got on here, and actually it's funny because Austin stole mine. So he's flat out just right on rug underneath the feet, stole mine on multivitamins. Like, you bastard. Anyway, so, and we kind of talked about it, and it is. I'll still give direct examples, but this is more of a category or how to navigate we'll say the supplements that are probably not going to be worth your money, is anything that's talked about on talk shows. And of course, anyone that's just heard that is going to start giggling to themselves and probably is thinking about Dr. Oz. And that's exactly it. The amount, I know the dude has such a following, and I don't really know him in a sense of, is he trying to help people or not? Is he affiliated with the actual manufacturing process behind any of these? I don't know. I don't care. It just irks me. That's a word I learned from Susan McPhee. Thanks, Mom. Irks me to see that he's promoting things such as green coffee bean, raspberry ketones, and I think his other big one was Garcinia Cambodia or whatever. I just think Cambodia every time I hear the friggin' supplement. And he went on, and I will tell you, and I'm sure that you can empathize with this too, is that the effect that or how quickly everyone had heard of these supplements was monumental. Like, screw creatine, screw BCAAs. Before you know it, what is green coffee bean? Can I use it? Where can I get it? It was everywhere. They have I don't know if they have it where you are or not. I don't doubt it, but they have a store called Showcase, which is the everything you can order off of the phone or order online. They have it in the store, readily available. Do you have anything like that there in your malls?
No, so it's like it's an as seen on TV type store.
You got it. Everything is as, like, you can buy you can buy the Snuggie, you can buy the Slap Chop, like you can go in and buy. So it's like they've bought it all and now they've got it in there for you. But then there was one. Funny enough, I went in there. I think it was the Sticky, which is like the roller thing for the ground. That works great, believe it or not. The same guys that made ShamWow. Like, that works great. Anyone that's so there's a take home from the podcast is jump out and go buy a ShamWow and a Sticky and you got it made. Screw supplements. But so they put out those two, and I went in to go buy it, and right next to it was raspberry ketones and green coffee bean, and I just rolled this would have been 2013, 14, something like that, and I just started rolling my eyes, and I was like, damn. And so no, and so what? How did he promote these, and how did, again, placebo effect for a lot of that stuff, but. If it did show any kind of efficacy, it was in such a wild amount, with such a wild form of it. But again, as for most fat burning supplements, neither one of us brought up fat burners because there are some ingredients that can potentially assist you in the fat burning process. However, I still picked this one to kind of hammer down on. Is just really watch out for the ones that promise miracles. Like, a lot of these ones, like even appetite suppressants, it's like. Especially ones like, what was that? Hoodia? Was that what it was called?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Hoodia.
Yeah,
with two O's.
That's right. Hoodia. There you go. Sounds like an owl, right? Hoodia. So, and I remember I remember a couple of people that took this that came in when I worked at a supplement shop. This would have been in 2009. and they like, my stomach feels like a balloon is inside of it, like it was inflated, like almost like they had too much, like they added baking soda to kind of cola, and like they were feeling like that all day. I'm like, that might be an appetite suppressant, but that feels terrible. And then it was preventing them from eating food, absorbing nutrients. So just, there's another example of just these huge supplements that were promoted as something that just not only didn't pan out, but potentially could be dangerous. But the green coffee bean and the raspberry ketones, those aren't fat burning ingredients. And if they do, and you're out there saying I've used them and they've helped me, cool. I would like to see you have a good diet, maybe have some cardio, whatever, resistance training without those supplements, and see if it did in fact make that big of a difference. So that'll be kind of the last thing that I'll say, is that if you're looking at fat burners, either through advertisements on TV, online, in magazines, usually some way, somehow, in the bottom left corner, if you turn the magazine upside down, it will say, when you have a good diet and training regimen. And of course, you add in anything to a good diet and training regimen, you're gonna see some damn results, but it's not because of the supplement by any stretch.
Yeah, I mean, hell, a lot of the time they take people that didn't have a good regimen and they put them on a good regimen, and then they're like, "Oh, this study was controlled." I'm like, "No,
that's not absolutely always." Well, and still, let's keep going on the Marty and Austin versus Muscle Tech thing here. Remember back in the day when they had all the pro bodybuilders in off season, and they took pictures of them, like, oh yeah,
put them on a
and they like, I remember Lee Priest was the funniest. Like, he had like because the dude went bananas in his off season, and then it was like, here's after Hydroxycut what happened to Lee Priest: stage, competitive, ready. Oh my lord! So that marketing has gone away a bit. There's still Photoshop and stuff like that, but like this one supplement made a pro bodybuilder lose 100 pounds and win the Australian IFBB. Get out of here! So yeah, just as a side note, like, oh my, I remember those ads. I remember. Even 15, 14-year-old Marty was like, really? Like, knowing nothing. I was like, there's... oh, man. Yeah. So
I had a Muscle Tech book
no
that had like a lot of workouts and diets and stuff in it, which were, they were okay at the time, but I stole one of my first routines out of there. But, the comparisons were hysterical.
Oh yeah, just like I remember, like, even, and anyone wants to watch a really interesting documentary is called Bigger, Stronger, Faster, and the gentleman in there, Chris Bell, ends up they take before and after photos in the same day, and it's like, look sad, look like you just lost your dog, your mom's in the hospital, and they take the photo, and then it's like the after photo, it's like, you just won the lottery, you just graduated your master's degree, and so like they're all smiling. So it's just, oh man, like, I don't want to get too heavy. Like, we should include it. We should included that in the marketing episode. But like, that's just it. Is that the take home message is, if they're claiming that one or two supplements are going to make or break you into this amazing athlete and or physique, is just run the other direction, rip the page out of the magazine, throw it out into your proper recycling bin.
Yep. I remember that. I came upon a site the other day, and I thought, like I said, I thought a lot of these were gone, but they had like their products were named extremely close to the name of, like, different anabolic compounds.
Absolutely.
Like they had Deca Duraba. That's what they called it.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh man. And wow. There was a company that was notorious for that. High Tech Pharmaceuticals was so bad about that.
I remember that. I remember their pages in magazines, their advertisements. Yep.
Or they just called it. The product would be called Anavar.
Absolutely, straight up. And then and how they got oh my lord, how they got away with that is not only beyond me, but like, you know that they were making bank off of that stuff too, like straight up, because you could Google it. You could Google Anavar, and if anyone's listening, Anavar is an anabolic steroid in pill form that is widely used in the medical industry. But so you Google Anavar, you're not going to come up. The first thing that's going to come up on page one Google is not High Tech Pharmaceuticals. It's going to come up the legal, illegal unless you have a prescription or anything like that. It's going to come up the anabolic steroid, and you're going to read about it, muscle up, fat down. Oh my god! So you're going to buy it from this scam company. Oh man! And then the other one, I remember MHP put out Drenbuterol with a D. And yeah. And then what was the one that Gaspari put out too? It was it looked like it wasn't. It didn't say halotestin, but it was something very close to it.
Yeah, remember the name of it. I'm trying to think. And the bottle or in the package looked like it came straight from a pharmacy.
Absolutely. It might have even just been called Halo. And then again, what was their most famous one? Novadex. Right?
Oh, yeah. Novadex.
Novadex without the L. Yep.
Novadex XT, the actual product, was a hormonal product. It was because it got
absolutely. Yeah, it was that and like, we're going way off topic here, ladies and gentlemen, but that along with 6-oxo from ErgoPharm those were excellent products that unfortunately they were a little bit too risque at the time, but they were playing on anti-estrogenic compounds such as Nolvadex without the L, which is also known as tamoxifen citrate, just to drop some, so that me and Austin sound super damn smart here, but just be careful of that marketing too, is that if something looks like even the synephrine ephedrine, like even though they weren't trying to do that, it was part of the same chemical compound family, and so therefore that's very confusing. So if anything, just message us, ask us, comment on the Facebook, comment on the podcast notes, just say, hey, what about this one? What about this one? What about the... And we will gladly be able to do either a follow-up podcast or just message you back directly for sure.
There you go. Straight from Marty's mouth.
Straight from Marty. We haven't had one in a bit, so there we go. Okay, from Marty and Austin here at the Mind Body Broadcast, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.